All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate everyone's attendance here for our webinar. This is our ProLinkHFA webinar track. We do these webinars monthly, and we're going to be talking about Procorem today. The title of this webinar is Procorem 101. So for today's presentation, I'm going to go over a general overview of the company, give you some basic information about ProLink, and then I'll be handing it off for a basic building blocks of Procorem overview, followed by a demo by our product owner for Procorem. So I'm Bree Kruder. I'm the Executive VP for ProLink. I'm joined by Ryan Kim, who's our VP of Sales and Marketing. And then Tom Royal is our Senior Product Owner for Procorem, so he's going to be handling our demo today. Quickly going through some general information. So thank you to those who have been attending our webinar series throughout the year. This is new to ProLink. I think we started, I think mostly this year with such a robust schedule across all of our products. And it's been a wonderful experience for us. It's been a great way for us to connect virtually on a regular basis with agencies, with industry participants, both clients and non-clients. So we really do appreciate that opportunity and your ongoing support of us as we do this. The purpose of these webinars is to address industry trends, topics, business concerns across the industry, talk about those, and then discuss how software can help to solve some of those issues and support the business. So we always have a business presenter and then a technical presenter as part of these events for 45 minutes. They occur on the first one they have this year occurred on the first Wednesday of each month. This is our last one of the year. So next month we are hosting our annual ProLink Tech Live conference, which is open to everybody. Very much training heavy. A lot of our clients tend to join that one, and we'll be covering a number of topics. So we will be sharing the registration link to that event and talking more about it at the end of this webinar today. And our goal is to reach, housing agencies nationally with the topics that we're discussing here. That's really the intended audience, both clients and non-clients of ProLink. Really, it's kind of an open forum for us to connect together. So going into who we are, many of you know us already, but we've been in the affordable housing industry. ProLink has been for over, I think it's 24 years or so at this point. We build technology to support the housing crisis and help improve that for the United States. We've been in this business a long time, supporting first and foremost state and local housing agencies. That's really where we got introduced to affordable housing in the early 2000s, and then since then have started working with tax credit syndicators and investors and even developers, offering products and services to all of those different groups. And we really try to build systems that holistically support the business from that origination stage all the way through asset management and compliance. We want to build systems that provide you with that source of record for your agency that you can rely on, and then tools married to kind of that database like Procorem to help enhance and make doing business easier. Working with your external parties, we want to make that easier. We want information to be shared more readily available, and hopefully promote less manual entry of that data. So that is really what we do every day, what we are focused on every day. Our team is made up of technologists and industry experts. A lot of our people have been with ProLink for a long time and really do understand the affordable housing industry. We also have some industry kind of veterans who now work for ProLink and help to inform us and make sure that we're meeting the needs that are specific to affordable. Quickly going over just some information again about the company. We support a number of large public syndicator or large sector clients, including 15 state housing agencies, 2 supportive services agencies, We also support 5 syndicator and investors with our products. We have a number of industry partnerships that we're involved with. NCSHA and the NAMA XML Standard Group are 2 that we're very active with. We actually support the NAMA XML Standard Group, hosting that group on Procorem. So just another use case of that application. Industry education and reaching out and doing these kinds of events has become increasingly more important to us. So we do host this webinar. We also host a less regular half webinar that talks about the Homeowner Assistance Fund. And then we also do our user conference and quarterly training events for our users throughout the year. And as much as we have the opportunity to, as we continue to progress in the tools that we build, we partner with other technology leaders in our industry and just technology leaders in general, like Amazon Web Services and DocuSign. We want to make sure that we're continuing to add really good skill sets and technology to make this process easier and kind of keep up with the pace of technology that we all, rely on and welcome into our daily lives. So here, I'm just highlighting a number of the blogs that we have posted over the course of the year, highlighting different subjects. DocuSign, talking about that integration, Amazon blogs that we've talked about. This is something that we like to do regularly, is share what we're doing internally, where our technology is going, as much as we can share that, highlight our clients, highlight what people are using our systems for. We try to do that through webinars, monthly newsletters, all of those different things. So I encourage you to look out for those and kind of keep up with what we're doing. Here's a quick glance at some of our customers across our product line. So we have ProLinkHFA, large group there, ProLink AIM, which is the syndicator investor group. And then we have a few clients previously on our Hardest Hit Fund product, as well as ProLink Plus, which supports the Homeowner Assistance Fund. So thank you to all of our clients. I know a number of you are on today for this webinar. Again, of those 18 state housing agencies, you can see 16 of them are using pretty much the ProLinkHFA product suite with 2 supportive services agencies. You can see kind of a small little area in California representing a supportive services agency, and the other is actually in New York. New York uses ProLinkHFA, and also separate agency uses our supportive services module. I always like to start our webinars with this kind of bird's eye view slide of our systems, orienting you to how they work together. We sell ProLink as a package deal. It's the ProLink product suite, whether you're a syndicator buying ProLink AIM or an agency who's using ProLinkHFA. It's a suite. It's a kind of marriage between these three products. ProLinkHFA represents your back office system. It's that source of record that you all depend on, and kind of the holy grail, right? It's where you're doing your daily work, and all of that final data is residenced. And then on the front end, we have our customer portal, which is Procorem, which we'll be talking about today. And then SmartDocs is an Excel and Word add-in tool that allows you to get and send map data, and then get and send that data directly from Excel and Word into ProLinkHFA. So a lot of the use case of Procorem is a very prominent one with our clients today, is using it to gather information from those external parties, and then using the power of SmartDocs to import that data into ProLinkHFA, get it out of HFA, continue with your analysis, perhaps underwriting, and then export that or import that information back into ProLinkHFA, always maintaining that final source of record in your database. So that's how those things work together. This is a quick snapshot of the different modules that we offer in the system. We have asset management and compliance. We have our multifamily development and bond financing module, and our single family development module. We also do have supportive services, REO and Budget Pro as applications within our product offering. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Ryan next to cover our business case for Procorem. So Ryan, I'll let you take it from here. And thank you all so much for joining us for our last webinar of 2022. I can't believe we're already here. So I'll see you soon for Tech Live.
Okay, Bree, I'm gonna wait until you unshare your screen.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, stop share.
I'm gonna share my screen. And then, okay.
We see it.
Okay.
It's not in presentation mode, but we do see it.
Now it's in presentation mode? Okay, perfect. Here you go. Okay, thanks for the overview, Bree, and I'm Ryan Kim. I'll be spending next about 10 minutes to go over, kind of look at Procorem with a bird eye view at a high level, going over some basic building blocks of Procorem, and then pass on to Tom Royal, our senior product owner, to do a little demo of Procorem for about 25 to 27 minutes. And I'll come back to close the webinar. Let's go over Procorem basic building blocks. It starts with account. All other components of Procorem rest on top of account. Account is associated with organization. So if you are, let's say, smaller government agency, you're probably more likely to have a one account, right? So if you are, let's say, some county government, you'll have that, county government account, and then generally use Procorem that way. But if you're a bigger organization, you have a distinct lines of business that are very separate. There is much overlap. Let's say you are a housing finance agency, but you have multifamily team and single family team separately. It might make sense to hold two different accounts to serve those two different departments' needs, right? So there are situations where you could have multiple accounts, but generally you start with just thinking one organization equals one account. Once you have account, you'll have a work center. And for most cases, you're gonna have multiple work centers. We have seen a case where there are 3,000 work centers within one single account. So that's a little bit of an extreme case, but generally you'll have a work center per asset or property you manage. So let's say you have Procorem account to manage your asset management portfolio. You have 50 assets. That generally means you probably have 50 work centers. So that's generally how you think about work centers. Each work center, there are certain component features of Procorem, starting with collaborators. So these are people you invite to work center, and you can interact with those people within the work center. Files and folders, that's the file sharing component of Procorem. Tasks is the workflow aspect of Procorem. And posts is the chat feature within Procorem. So you'll have that in each work center. I like to emphasize here that Procorem Work Center was originally designed to promote full transparency within the work center. So imagine, a simple empty room that doesn't have a closet. So you're not hiding anything as long as you're in the room. Whoever is in the room can see each other. Everything is open, right? Transparent within the work center. I like to emphasize Procorem is a purpose-built platform for the housing industry. So it does work as a, to handle, real estate asset or property well, and sort of consider as like a deal room. And our Procorem roadmap, those new items that we'll be building in Procorem in the future will reflect that aspect of Procorem as a affordable housing platform. These work centers are completely, within work center is complete transparency. There is a complete transparency, but between work centers are completely segregated. So if there are people, you're not gonna be able to see each other's, files or tasks if you're in two separate work centers, right? Complete segregation there. People you're inviting to the work center, I put these cartoon images to represent internal agency team members. And then I put the real human images to represent external customers for you. They're just for illustration purposes and to emphasize the fact that Procorem is a great platform for external communication purposes to deal with your external customers such as developers or property managers. Procorem is less of a platform for your internal document sharing or trying to increase the work productivity within the company itself. There are a lot of tools out there that help you with that. Monday.com. There are other tools, Trello, Smartsheet, that can help you with the internal workflow. And then there are Microsoft, OneDrive, SharePoint, Slack, Zoom, those kind of internal platforms to help communicate internally or share files internally, right? But Procorem is really a platform to communicate with your external customers and interact with them. Many cases we see in our industry is using Procorem to collect, facilitate your NOFA process to collect your funding applications from developers. Or asset management stage, collecting annual financials and all those compliance data year after year after year. That's how people are using Procorem today amongst our customer base. When you have a lot of work centers, sometimes it's hard to organize. There's such a thing as too many work centers. And in order to stay organized with just too many work centers, there are a few things that you like to be informed. One is work center category. So you're able to create a grouping of work center visually. So it'll be easier for you to see it visually together, easier to navigate. So work center category is something that you like to be aware of. There are work center roles. So you have these three different people, external developers, invited to three different work centers, but they can be assigned to the same work center role as a developer. So that's another way to kind of organize too many work center kind of situation. And finally, if there are work centers not within work center category, but for whatever reason, which I will provide a little use case after this slide, if they are related, you can link those two work centers. And that way you can see those linked work centers together on the same screen. So it's easier to navigate back and forth. And there are things that you can do just easier and stay organized with too many work centers on Procorem. So I'm going to go over a little use case for you in our industry. So you're an HFA agency, you have an account, HFA account, and you have a Garden Court Deal Work Center. And I have a category set up as a origination work center category. So this is where all your origination deal work centers are put within this category. And then you have a Garden Court asset work center in a different category called asset management work center category. So you might have 50 or 100 different work centers here, each representing asset within your asset management portfolio. And then you might have a different work center category, such as individual work center. And then you can create something called Jim Getty or someone's name work center. And let me explain to you how this thing will work. Let's say Jim Getty is a developer on a deal called Garden Court Deal. So you'll invite Jim to join this work center. And then basically he will be submitting funding application, let's say 9% LIHTC application with all the supporting documents in this work center. And you work with him in order to allocate that tax credit on the deal that he's proposing. And if that deal is closed, when the deal is closed, you create another work center. You can keep this work center as is, but create another work center, Garden Court Asset Work Center, and invite him there, and probably his property management company as well, and basically use this work center to communicate with him for the next 15 years in terms of collecting compliance data. And then you could have another work center just for him to submit his personal financial documents and protect his privacy from being exposed to too many people. So this work center will be a little bit isolated to a few folks. And once you do that, you can, one thing is, and then he'll have a developer work center role throughout this account. And then you can link these 3 work centers with each other. So these work centers will stay together on the same page, and you'll be easily navigate back and forth between 3 work centers. So that's one last thing before I wrap up and hand off to Tom is usage of template work center. So let's say if you are creating a new work center, you can, any existing work center can be set up as a template. So this can be set up as a template work center. And then when you create another deal work center, use that sort of copy and paste concept, and then start with what you have already. And at that point, you are able to pick and choose. Like you could say, I like to import these set of people and this sort of files and folders and tasks, but I do not like to copy paste posts, right? So you're able to cherry pick what you like to copy over and create a new work center. That way it's more efficient and stay kind of standardized. So while I'll be handing over to Tom, but basically Tom will be going over the basic building blocks of Procorem, such as these components that I just went over, and use of template work centers. And then he'll finish with the industry example on Procorem. So let me stop sharing my screen. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Okay, so I've already logged into Procorem, and what I'm going to be doing over the remaining time that we have is going to be walking us all through some of the key features and functionality in Procorem. I'm going to be looking at work centers, going to be looking at some of the account administration capabilities that are throughout the work centers. But more importantly, what I really want to show are some of the kind of the workflow and some of the areas of Procorem that will help you automate your business processes. I think this is where Procorem will add a lot of value to your organization. And those are the areas that we certainly want to make sure that we focus on today. I know this is titled a Procorem 101, but my kind of challenge that I wanted to put out there for this demo today is hopefully by the end of the demo, you may have seen something that you haven't seen before. I know that we've got a lot of people on here that have used Procorem for some period of time. So I'm going to try to intersperse some things in there that may be new, and hopefully you can learn something. So just to start off, just a kind of overview, as Ryan mentioned, of work centers themselves. Work centers are typically, they could be a project, that could be an asset, it could be something that you're going to be collaborating with other people, both internally and outside of your organization. Work centers is going to be made up of a number of different components, as Ryan mentioned. And I'm just going to go quickly into one to go over some of these primary areas. The first thing I actually want to start off with is collaborators. And collaborators, this is really the whole reason that you're going to create a work center, is that you're going to be sharing information with people. You're going to be sharing files, retrieving files from them. You're even maybe giving them tasks and things to do. Each work center can have a number of different collaborators that are assigned to it. I'm going to go through and look at just different collaborator views in the account area. But collaborators themselves are typically broken down into two primary categories. The first are members. Members are going to be people that have potentially elevated security privileges within your work center. They can be people that can create tasks for other people. They can put files in place and do more of that administrative side. The other thing that members would be are those that would have custom roles in a work center. And I'm going to talk about custom roles and the power of those here shortly. Other people could fall into the guest category. Guests are going to be people that you want to have access to a work center. They're going to have access to the documents in there. They could potentially upload a document, but mostly they're going to be read-only type users within the system. They can't contribute. They can't upload. They can read posts and things like that. But they're going to, like I said, primarily be read-only users. They're going to be pulling information off. The power within Procorem are going to be your collaborators and your members. And members can, be assigned to one or multiple work centers. So once you've added them to account, you have the ability to add them to as many work centers as you wish within that account. And importantly, collaborators can have roles. Within the collaborator itself, you could see, what their preferences are, work centers they're on. But the big piece of this is going to be the role. One of the things that I would advocate as if you're new to Procorem, if you're just getting started, is to spend some time thinking about the roles that are going to be using work centers within Procorem. You can create custom roles in here, and each role itself can have like custom privileges for that role. Taking a quick look at some of the roles I've created here in this demo environment, asset manager, for example. So for a role, you can actually go in, you can define, do they have the ability to upload, delete files, restore file versions? Can they create folders? What are some of the administrative privileges that they can have? Maybe they can, update tasks, delete tasks, or create tasks, manage, who the approvers are in that task. So it really gives you some ability to configure and add some granularity to the capabilities that a role can have. Another reason that roles are really important is that you can assign tasks to roles, and that will really help with your business process automation. And I'm going to show a demonstration of that here shortly. So jumping into the other, assuming you've got some roles set up and you've got some collaborators, jumping into some of the other areas within a work center, you've got files, and files within a work center is right now our most heavily used area of Procorem today. There are millions of files that have been used out there, shared versions of files out there without Procorem. Really highly used area of the application. Within files, you can group the files into subfolders and subfolders under subfolders. There's really no limit to the number of folders and subfolders that you can have. Obviously, we would recommend that you want to organize it in some way where it's easy to find, something that makes sense. In this case, for this demo work center for what would be an asset, we've got folders in here for things like financials and inspections. And as you would expect, the financials folder will be where annual financials, templates, and files and things like that would be placed. Files themselves, pretty straightforward. You can actually download the file just by clicking on the link. Or if you wanted to access some of the other actions that can go with files, you could click on the file detail. And within files themselves, you can see information on the file. You can add comments to the files. So if I wanted to say, this is the latest version, for example, I can post this out here. Files can also have versions. So if files change over time, if you have templates that are updated over time, you can actually bring those templates in. And that can either be done through an upload, or you can actually just drag and drop it on this screen. And it will create another version of that. One of the things that's helpful with versions, and especially since this is a collaboration platform, somebody might overwrite a version that may have been the last known good version. So you can always restore an older version if you need to. And if you ever need to see what's going on with the files, if you're not sure what was the version, who put the new version in, when, what's all the history, the activities tab in files will keep a track of all the history that's happened for that particular file. The other thing that you can look at with files as well is you can see that are there any tasks that are associated to this file. So in this example, if there was a task that said I needed to complete annual financials, I would be able to see that task here. I can use this file as a template, go, fill it out and complete my task. The next thing I wanted to talk about briefly within a work center is posts. Now, posts is a somewhat of a simple message board. You could put information out here that just, communicates whatever you want to anyone else within the work center. You can put information in here, maybe updates on how the project's going, or maybe even solicit feedback. One of the things I did want to point out with posts is that you do have some capabilities for formatting the text that's in here. So if the post wanted to be a list, for example, you can expand this little drop down and format your post that's in there. One other thing that I'll point out, and if we have some time, I'll show how to do this, is you can actually create posts automatically through email. So every work center has a little button here that tells you that you can email this work center. If I was to click this, it will give me a link that is unique to this work center. And I could send an email in here. It will automatically create a post and with the attachment. Okay. The last thing I wanted to show, just as far as the high level overview of work centers, is tasks. Now the task engine, exactly what it sounds. You can create tasks within a work center in Procorem. And a task can have, the task title and the status. You can organize tasks into task groups, and this is entirely configurable. So you can create different task groups. So back in your task list, if you wanted to group tasks by, financials, inspection types, you could group them that way. And that list is entirely configurable. Other things you can do with tasks is you can identify, what location is this task for. That's helpful if you're looking at a big, long list of tasks, especially if you've got a lot of tasks and you're working across multiple work centers. It's easy reference. Start dates and end dates. Supplying this information in here will actually give you reminders and notices when tasks are coming up due. It'll help you also filter out things that are due for certain time ranges or things that are coming up due soon. You can assign tasks to an individual. You can also assign tasks to a role. And assigning tasks or roles is something that can be extremely powerful when you're setting up templates and setting up some of that automation. And we're going to look at that here shortly as well. Approvers, you can set up who can approve a task. So if you've got a workflow, for example, where one individual has to complete a task and the other individual needs to approve the task, you can set up approval workflows and assigning workflows in here as well. And approvers can also be set up by an individual or a role. And then followers. And finally, one thing I wanted to point out is task flow. So if you have tasks that are dependent on other tasks, you can chain those tasks together to ensure that everything gets completed in a set order. So for example, if I wanted this task to be reliant on the financials and that has to be completed first, I can actually set it to be dependent on that. And one nice feature in Procorem is you can actually set an auto due date. So that will be dependent upon the full completion of the previous task. So if the financials, for example, of this particular task should be done 7 days or would be due 7 days after this financials task will be done, I can plug 7 days in here. I don't have to put in a start date or a due date, but when that dependent task, that previous task is completed, it will automatically create a due date for this task. Okay, so I've walked through fairly quickly, files and Procorem and posts and Procorem and tasks and Procorem, and that's typically where most everybody's working and doing their day-to-day. However, the real power in Procorem would come with templates. So I'm going to come back to the account level, and I've got, in this case, I've already pre-built a asset management work center template. So as I was putting this template together, one of the things that you would ask, or as you're setting this up as part of your, what are the repeatable processes that you have for asset management, for example, or property management? There's going to be a number of things that you're going to be doing that, it's mostly going to be repeatable. It's going to be kind of the same thing each time you kick off one of these projects. So in this case, Procorem would give the ability to create this template and set up a whole bunch of tasks, for example, pre-set up, ready to go. With these tasks, in this case, I've actually assigned this to an inspector role. Other tasks I may assign to other roles. So when I was talking about kind of setting those roles and getting those set up first, you can pre-configure and pre-build all your tasks to be assigned to roles. Later, if I build a work center off of this, and all I got to do is bring in a new collaborator, sign them to that role. Those tasks are automatically going to be assigned to that new collaborator once they've accepted their invitation. Other things you can do within templates and have them ready to go is you can put pre-placed files in here. For example, I've got a financials template in here. This would be something that would be used every time I want to do the project. You can have as many files in here as you wish to set up your template. And you can even link these all together. So in the case of the complete and return annual financial statement task that I pre-set up, I actually went ahead and linked that to the financials template file so that when I create a new work center built off of this template, everything's going to be easy to find. And if a new collaborator is coming in, they're going to see their task, they're going to see the file already linked to it, and it's going to make them easy to find, really what they need to complete their task. Okay. The other thing that you can do is you can do posts. You can pre-configure posts. So for example, if I wanted to go ahead and I have a nice welcome post or put something out there that says, hey, if you're having any problems, you can reach out to me in my email, or maybe even some instructions for how to complete the different areas of the work center. That would be a good thing to do as an initial post as well. Okay. So once I've got my template all pre-configured, I could have my roles set up. I could have fairly robust and, big template set up, files, tasks, posts, everything ready to go. I can actually come in here and we'll do a little real world scenario now. So say like I've got another asset that I'm going to kick off. I want to go ahead and create a work center for that. I would just go to my create work center and I will say this is going to be, we'll give it a name. Categories will help me manage and organize my work centers, but also there's some different configurations that can be set up for categories as well. There's some category settings so that you can say what the default landing page is and things like that for a work center. Give it a description if I want. And most importantly, pick a template. Important step now would be to check the options. By default, it doesn't import files, tasks, posts, collaborators. You can configure that. However, there is an account setting where I can say at the account level for any template, I want to always import files, tasks, and posts. I'm not going to import collaborators this time because I want to bring somebody new in on this one. And some advanced options. I can also set what's the auto due date a number of days from today. So what this will do, if you've got some root tasks and base tasks that were set up, I could say, I want to start everything is going to be due 14 days from whatever this work center is created. So I've got my template ready to go. I'm going to click save. And now Procorem went out there, grabbed all the information that was in that template, created that new work center, my Coral Key Reserve, and set up all the tasks. You'll see it's actually got in here now some due days, so it's due in 14 days. And everything, and essentially my process has been kicked off. So the first thing I need to do here is I need to add a collaborator. Again, this is a collaboration platform. I'm going to do this real quickly. So I'm going to bring in Robert August. He's my asset manager and invite him to my work center. And once I've done that, it's going to generate an email. I'll see over here that it's pending work center access. I'm going to log out because now what I'm going to do is I'll have an email over here. I'll grab real quick. This will be the email that my asset manager gets. And now I've signed in as Robert August. He's the asset manager. One of the things that, since I pre-configured those tasks to use roles, now when he goes in and clicks on his task list, those tasks are automatically assigned to him because he's in those roles. So I'll see that he needs to submit an initial quarterly status report. I'm going to go ahead and complete that real quick, and also complete and return annual financial statement. We'll look at that. I'll see that there's a file associated with it. So that's great. I've pre-filled that. So in this case, Robert August will come in here and he's going to bring in his file. He's going to upload it. I've got one all ready to go. So he's going to add his completed financials, go back to his tasks, and complete it. In that case, his task is done. Any other tasks that were dependent are going to actually go ahead and kick off. And you can see like the conduct annual property inspection, for example, it's due in 14 days. The second quarterly status report, these were actually some, dependent tasks that were set up. It will have that flow already set up and ready to go. However, it is pending approval. So you now, as the account administrator or the work center administrator, you would essentially come back in, you would receive notifications that, in this case, Robert completed his task. And now when I sign in here, I would see, for example, Robert completed his task, and the task is not complete because it's pending approval. And I was the approver on that. Okay. So as you can see, with a little bit of pre-work for setting up these work centers, setting up the roles, and setting up the templates, you can automate a lot of your business processes. Okay. One last thing, I know we're real short on time, but just wanted to point out is that, going to take a look at the questions here shortly, but wanted to talk briefly about where we're going next with Procorem, and looking at our roadmap. First thing that we're going to be doing is working on tasks. We're going to be putting more capabilities and functions into the task area. First of all, my tasks, so making it so it's quick or easier to find tasks that you need to take action on and things that you need to do. We're also having have a continued focus on performance improvement in Procorem. One of the great things is that Procorem has gotten a lot more use over the last couple of years. It's being used very heavily. That's a great problem to have. And we have noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed as well, there have been some performance challenges. We have made some more recent changes, and hopefully you've seen some improvements over the last month or so. But we still have some work to do. We know that we're continuing to monitor Procorem in performance areas or different areas throughout Procorem so that we can address those performance issues. And finally, your continued feedback through your MBRs, through us directly, through the user group interactions is very important to help us better support your business processes. So if there's ways that Procorem can be made better and better support your process, we're always open to those ideas and information. Okay. So I'm going to take a look real quick. I think there was a couple of questions that came in. Thank you, Sam. All right. So I got a question: is there be where there need to be a feature request submitted to make tasks visible to only assigned collaborators instead of all? Also, if multiple approvers are on a task, does each one need to approve before it drops off someone's task list notifications ever? So let me address the multiple approvers first. You can actually have multiple approvers on a task. However, you can define it either any approver can mark the task as approved or all approvers must mark the task approved. So if it's set as any approver can mark task as approved and one of those approvers approves it, that would be considered approved and complete at that time. If it's set up to all approvers must mark task as approved, then everybody that's an approver listed on there would have to approve it. And you can even further define that and define the order. So if the order set up, it would actually be a chain of approval. So if you've got like an escalation process or something like that, it can be done as well. Feature requests, as far as making tasks visible to only assigned collaborators instead of all. Yeah, that would be a feature request. We'd certainly be interested in that. And that's something that we can, certainly analyze and discuss. Another question is, once you've completed your task, why do you continue to receive notifications? Okay, so I know this is probably one of the biggest pain points in Procorem right now, is that it's a little notification heavy. Okay, maybe it's a lot notification heavy. So the notifications are meant to be helpful. It's meant to let you know that there's still activity that's going on with that task. One of the things that we've also got on the roadmap as well is we're going to start dialing back a bit on the notifications and have some conversations on, which notifications really are critical. How would you like to receive those notifications? Who really needs to receive those notifications? And what additional levels of customization are needed to further define the notification process. So that's something that we have listened on, and we are working through on, how can we better improve the notification process, because fully understand that, the notifications can be a bit much at times. All right. So Ryan, I know you've got a slide or two that you want to wrap up with, so I can go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Tom. That was great. Let me share my screen. Make it slideshow. Just wanted to finish up with the Procorem this is a photo housing industry platform. Serves well as an external communication platform. One thing I like to reiterate is, if you have a couple of super users in your organization who really own Procorem for you, and that person can really design and structure Procorem work centers and tasks, and then that'll help enforce internally within your organization, getting buy-ins, overcome any adoption issues. And then at that point, you're able to train customers and overcome their adoption issues externally. So that's how we recommend you to kind of approach Procorem. Lastly, this is the last webinar of the year, as Bree mentioned. So we just covered Procorem 101. We started in February with the updated COVID guidance, and we did the monthly webinar throughout the year. If you have any suggestions for the next year, we'll resume this webinar series in February 2023. Just let us know. We are sharing survey link right now in the chat, so you can just respond in the survey. And we'll send you a follow-up email after this webinar with a copy of this PowerPoint, so you can just reply to that email as well. We'd like to hear from you and continue improving our webinar. So this 45 minutes of each month is worth spending for you. Lastly, ProLink Tech Live is coming up about a month from now, November 9 and 10, 100% virtual. We have 2 tracks, and more relevant track for you will be ProLinkHFA track. We'll start with the keynote speaker, Jennifer Schwartz from NCSHA. She'll be giving us the latest industry updates from Washington, D.C. And then we have a couple of industry panels that with an experts and some, the agency customer representatives will be discussing compliance as well as Procorem use case. So good panels. And then we have 4 or 5 different software training sessions as well. So we are sharing a link to the registration page right now. You can click on the link. You can scan this QR code with your phone as well. Go to the registration site, check out the agenda, and register right there. Or if you have any questions about this ProLink Tech Live or any feedback on our webinar series, just contact me. My email address is right here. And yeah, this is it for today and for this year. So thanks for joining. I appreciate your participation, and we'll start again in February 2023. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day.